Hi, I'm Rebecca Galardo, the host of Alone in a Room with Invisible People. I'm here with author and teacher Holly Lisle, and today's topic is how not to get eaten by research. This is a highly, highly requested topic. Had a bunch of my friends on Facebook ask me if that we would cover it, a couple of emails, and then of course it's on the forums. A couple of people have been asking about it too. So we figured, let's just do this topic. Before we actually get into it though, just like every other week or every week, let's talk about what we did this week.
All right. Okay. Let's start out with the owner's tale for me. I finished it last week, and this week it is in its bug hunt. And I have already heard back from, some of my folks have already gotten the revisions back to me, but I heard from one reader who binge read it as soon as it came in. And
Awesome.
I got back from her these words: best twist ever. And that's I ended the series with that, and I was like, yes, that was right there. She got it. It was cool. So
Yay.
I am so excited about that. And I know I'm going to have some bugs, and I know I'm going to have some stuff I have to fix. But I nailed the ending. So, all right. How to write a novel. I am on lesson 10, which is pacing and plotting, building and maintaining suspense. And I am about halfway through writing that. And the novel that I'm writing, the demo novel that I am writing for the class, Dead Man's Party, went into the underworld, which is an AI construct that I didn't even know was there. And it turns out to be really important to the story, and my female lead went in there for a reason that I had not anticipated, and it just really kind of took off on me. And I thought that I was going to have this just little section, and that I was going to be writing a couple more scenes, and my whole hour of writing for that episode is that one scene, which I just really got down into. And I realized at the time that I was writing a lot of expository stuff, but it stays because that's what I got that day, and I will go back and make it active later.
Now, just a real quick question here. I want to clarify something.
Okay.
Underworld, because the thing is called Dead Man's Party, and if you read the first little bit, you might be thinking Beetlejuice Underworld, because that's what came to my mind originally. But then you said something about tech. So is it like the dark world, the black?
It is this place that when the bad guy, the villain, was in charge back before the fall, what is called the fall, which is when the AIs who knew what was going on and a bunch of people managed to break the system that kept them enslaved. It was this virtual reality that people spent all of their free time and all of their free money in to avoid the misery of their actual day-to-day lives.
Okay, so kind of like an intentional matrix.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of like that, but yeah.
So anything else this week, or
No, that was my week, and I'm pretty happy
That's
with
huge.
that. Yeah.
You said you're on lesson 10 or 11?
Lesson 10. Yeah, I am
Lesson 10. So how many lessons did you plan originally?
Oh God, 30 something.
Okay, so
there are a lot.
So not quite halfway.
Oh no, I'm not to halfway yet. No,
Okay.
I'm not even a third of the way yet. Getting there.
Today,
No, getting there. But I think.
Well, if you're not quite a third of the way, but you're close, right?
I'm
if
close
it's
to a
30
third of the
something.
way. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. My week was very exciting as well, and it was nice to have an exciting week. I got a little bit done on different things. Like I had a couple of ideas for the second book in the Wanda Lucia series, but this is how this goes. I swear, anytime you make a public declaration that you are going to do something, it changes on you. Because this screenplay, and I'm willing to share a little bit here, but not a lot. This screenplay that I have been meaning to write since I was 18. I was still living at home, so I think it was 18. Finally just hit me full force. And this I don't know if it's a fear. Okay, so first off, I have not heard back from Harlequin, which is fine. It has been the official 3 months on the 9th, but they say, I think 12 to 14 weeks or 14 to 16. I have to look. So I still have 2 weeks, I believe, maybe 4 before I can contact them, to say, hey, never heard back. Maybe it's that fear of writing a second book when the first one hasn't been accepted, and maybe the first one is shit and everybody else is just being nice to me. I don't know. It's just everything in my head. But or maybe it's just that it is linked with a very, very depressive part of my life right now, and I have to let it cool off before I hit Wanda Lucia again.
Mm-hmm.
But the screenplay has been on my mind since I remember being 18 and coming up with the idea. It was right after I finished Silver Lining, which is also just god awful, and maybe I should share it on the website, get the PDF up there, because that whew. but this was the next screenplay that I wanted to write, but because it's so personal, I didn't. And also there were things in our lives that hadn't happened yet that I was going to write about, but I didn't have the experience to have gone through those things and to find out how I really felt about things. And I have grown a lot as a person because of all the shit that we've been through and that I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I'm ready to write this now. So I have been working on the background of it. I have been putting in all of the information. I don't want to give away too much. I've just been writing up about the people in the screenplay. I've been putting together the basic story guidelines of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really passionate about getting the screenplay done.
Nice.
So I might end up finishing a screenplay before the end of the year instead of the Wanda Lucia book, which of course I even started to write a book with me on Facebook and the forums. And what do? But I quit that and I run into the screenplay.
Yeah.
So I feel awful about that, but
Oh, but sometimes.
If you're not on a deadline, if you're
Right.
not on something where people are depending on you to get fed, it's okay to switch things up if your muse is really, really pulling at you and you don't have something that you've literally started and been halfway through, and now of course something is pulling at you because you're getting bored with the old toy and you want to play with something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the path to death right there.
Yeah.
But
if you're just starting out and something that you have been wanting to write for almost 20 years is like eating at you, telling you that it's time, I think especially with something as important and relevant as this is to me, then it's just the right choice for me.
yeah. Yeah, no, that
But I'm
makes
very
sense.
excited.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And I know, first off, I have to say, leaving Wanda Lucia was not shit. I read it. I am a critical as hell reader. And
Yeah.
so is Matt. And Matt went through it, and you got his comment.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yeah, and he was enthusiastic, and he was enthusiastic about a romance novel, which is not a thing for him.
No,
He is
not at
not a
all.
romance reader, but he loved the story. So
And I mean, I know in my logical part of my head that you and Matt and specifically some of the bug hunters wouldn't lie about it. I think some of my friends might, oh, it was good, because they don't realize that when I say I can take criticism, that I can actually take criticism,
because you grew up with me, and I was giving you a professional writer's critique of your 10-year-old writing.
Yep. The first one I remember was when I was very young, but the most impactful was the one at 13. It's like, okay, well, what's the point? And I'm like, and Matt said that thing. He's like, well, do you want honest opinion or do you want her to tell you how great you are?
Right.
Honest opinion. I was so angry. And then, of course, every single time we had our writers' meeting, it was a professional grade critique. It was, this is what you did good, this is what you need to change or work on or something like that. So giving a kid professional critiques is great. There's no reason to baby a kid, in my mind.
Well, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
I was treating you
yeah.
as much like an adult as I could.
Yeah. Well, it's just the same thing as baby talking to a baby. It's going to teach it baby talk. If
Right.
if you talk to the baby like it's an adult, it'll learn, adult language.
Yeah. Well, I did that too. So
Yeah. And Joe was cursing at a very young age for a little while there.
he was.
And allowed to. I was jealous.
Well, you had different parents than he had.
Yeah.
I was a completely different person when you were little.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's fine though, I got to know a different version of my mom than he has.
Yes.
So anyway, getting back to the topic of today, it's my turn to say the so anyway part.
Yes.
How not to get eaten by research. Very, very highly requested topic. So Holly, take it away.
So I am going to start this out by saying that I have been the goddess of dying on research. This is a thing that from the very beginning, I was a huge J.R.R. Tolkien fan. And there in the back of his books, you have these massive glossaries, and there's language, and there's maps, and there's cultural information. And he wrote the freaking Silmarillion, which was just world building. There was no story. It was just world building. And it's massive. And I ate this stuff up. And I internalized at a very early age that if you want to be a writer, this is what you do. So from a very early age, I was drawing maps and I was creating these crazy worlds and cultures and building languages because J.R.R. Tolkien built languages, therefore. And I learned a hell of a lot about grammar and syntax and multiple languages and stuff from doing this. I mean, it was educational as hell. But this again is going back to writers eat elephants and readers eat berries. And I was eating the elephant and then putting the elephant into everything I wrote, which was killing editors and publications left and right. The very first acceptance I ever got was from a guy named Dan Petipus, who was at the time the editor of a magazine called Cosmic Landscapes. And he bought a story from me. Well, I would have gotten copies. A story from me. It was my very first acceptance ever. A story named Beneath the Wailing Wind. And it was this POV of aliens, and I had done massive world building, and it was a little story. It was like 4,000 words, but I had a Tolkien world behind it. And he bought it, and then his magazine died. And I firmly believe my story killed his magazine.
So stupid.
Yes, I feel horrible about that. And there were other magazines that I also killed by sending them my expository lump stories because of all of this world building that my stories were dragging chains, man. They were dragging chains and huge balls of lead behind them. And this was me. Research for me is the devil in a red leather mini dress. Whatever your muse is tempted by, that's what research was to me, and it was where I lived.
Mine would be like Timothy Oliphant or Manu Bennett. Or Gary Oldman, like from Air Force One. Well, that would be my tempted.
Yes, yeah. my muse is a little strange. It is not me. The first time I wrote an essay about my muse was in 11th grade, and my teacher, Mr. Rose, had us read Mark Twain's essay on his muse. And then I wrote about mine. And it didn't even occur to me as I wrote it that I portrayed my muse as male. And yes, to me, that was just normal. That's this other part of me, and my muse is male. And he said, and I got this little note back there, your muse is a guy? It's like, Well, I guess, yeah, that is a little odd, isn't it? And now, we have these exercises that we do in the forums, and all kinds of, I have guys with female muses and girls with male
I
muses.
think
And
that's more typical as the guys with the female muses. I think that that's pretty typical because that's the idea. But mine is like just a childish version of me. That's what mine is.
yeah,
But I was talking about research being the devil in a mini red leather mini dress. Mine would be, one of those three guys, just not in a red leather mini dress. I don't want to see one of them in it. I don't think
no,
they'd look
no,
great.
Timothy Oliphant does not have the legs to carry off a mini dress.
No, he's got them swimmer legs.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, when I am talking about research, please understand that I get this. I am deeply sympathetic to people who fall down the well of research because research is fascinating and cool and engrossing. And it is a massive excuse for not actually writing because you can take anything and say, hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm working on my writing, but I'm not actually, my ass is not in the chair and I am not typing words. So it becomes its own complete diversion away from what you need to be doing. So I am going to give you a bunch of tips for not getting sucked into the research hole. And as someone who occasionally still does research, there is a time and a place. But the time and the place is not when your butt is supposed to be in the chair and you're supposed to be getting your words. And that has to come first. Words first, research after. Okay, so the first thing you do when you are not getting sucked into research is you just avoid the need. And this is kind of hard for folks like me to get your head around because you want to do all that cool world building and you want all that cool world building and you want to do all of the language building and the culture building and the just
But even just the research, even for people who aren't, complete and total writer dorks.
right. Or you want to write about the Roman Empire and you are not familiar with the
Yeah.
Roman Empire. And
Like I'm getting sucked into like ghost stories and witch stories and witch history and all that stuff. And it's fascinating and it's fun to read. And it's like, I can't wait to write about all of this, but you're reading it.
right. You are actually, even as your muse is saying, I can't wait to write about this, you are making your muse wait to write about it.
Yep.
Which is the counterproductive, desperately counterproductive. So what you do first, this is the avoid mechanic. This is how you avoid research, and this is just one of a number of tips. Okay, you write in worlds and eras and cultures you already know. Okay, so let's say you are a professor of British history. And you know all the kings and all of the culture, all of the backstory of that, then okay, use that right in that world. Because you already know it and you don't have to go back and research. Or write in the modern day because you live here and you know how that works. And no matter where you live, it's exotic to somebody. If you live in small town Ohio, if you live in Janadenhutton, Ohio, which is the place that I kind of semi think of as a hometown, even though I only lived there for a couple of years and it isn't. I love that place, and it's 1,200 people. It's this close-knit little community. Everybody knows everybody. The kids can walk to school and back, or, back in the 1960s when I lived there, the kids could walk to school and back. Everybody on the block had kids. We all went out in the backyards and played together. And this is this time capsule for me. I could write Janadenhutton in 1965, 67 and, make it something wonderful. And I wouldn't have to research because I lived it. But there is a second half to avoiding, which is what I call MSU. And this is in the How to Write a Novel class. It is making shit up. And for folks who don't like to swear, it is making stuff up. MSU. All right? And this is where you use a placeholder in which you write or where you are just saying, okay, well, I'm going to invent the world whole cloth, and I am going to write And as I write and come up with ideas, I am going to put in a placeholder. And that's like TC, which stands for to come. And you say, and then you write in the question. Okay, the question here would be, so what kind of language do they speak? And just
I do that all the freaking time,
Yeah.
all the time. Because once I learned to stop the inner critic for the most part, or shut it up every time I hear it, if I come up with a research idea or something else like that, and I learn not to go back and edit like you teach, and then not to get distracted in those 10-minute timers, that is what saves my life. Because I, was diagnosed with the ADD when I was younger in the 80s or 90s, 80s, and
which you got from me.
yeah. And I'm always wanting to get up and go do something, or do, like research this or research that. And I always tell myself, no, 10 minutes right now, 10 minutes right now. And I put in placeholders. So I have, even if I forget somebody's name, even if I forget what the house looks like or something else like that, or I forget, what name I created for a neighboring town, I just put a placeholder. I highlight it in yellow and I leave it in there.
Yes.
Because you will find it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what I do is I do a bracket, a left square bracket, and then TC in caps, and then a hyphen. And I can search that. And when I am done writing the entire manuscript, I can go through and just search left square bracket, capital T, capital C, hyphen. And every single thing that I needed to research, I can then go back and find in order and work
I need
my
to
way.
start doing that then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And then
I never use a searchable way.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because I dislike having to find things in a manuscript. So I came up with that simply because it works, and it's simple and it's fast. And you go through, and then you can, after you have written the first draft, and you have these little placeholders in there that is telling your right brain, okay, we'll get that. Just keep going, keep telling the story. And in this fashion, you have awesome things on your page, and you have things that you can add later and questions that you answer, and you get your research done on the back end of the book. You look
And
like
just-
yeah.
Yeah. Even though you can't see my face because of the dark, you knew that I wanted to say something.
Yes.
That's funny. This really does work, I have to say, because there's a lot of people that will struggle to even implement this and say, oh, my brain doesn't work like that. Oh, it's not right for me. There is scientific proof, and especially if you read Getting Things Done. I don't remember the name of the author right now. My brain is just out of it. But Getting Things Done. He explains brain dumping and putting up to-do lists and trying to get stuff out of your head, because we have these stressful lives, and everything that we have on a to-do that we don't write down and put in a place where we know it is going to be, and we can find it again, it keeps running around in our brains, and it's a loop. And I had Mom read some of Getting Things Done too, to kind of help, because she has so much to do. But this is the same concept, because you're putting this note down somewhere where you are guaranteed to find it during your reread through, or if you do what Holly does and have something that's searchable, which is pretty, like, you would think it would be obvious to do that, but I think it's pretty genius because I never thought of it. But it's like, if you're putting that down, you are putting it out of your mind, because you know it's in a place where you can find it again, where it's safe, where it won't be lost. That to-do item is safely put out of your head, and you can move on and write from there. And it might take a little bit of adjusting to get used to it, because my thing was always, okay, well, I got to research this now. So I've been there. I've done that. You can, especially with the ADD, it's like, oh, an excuse to do something different. Oh, something shiny. It really is. But
Yeah.
you can train your brain very easily to promise itself that, okay, I will touch this later when I am not writing, and I will have more fun with it, and I'll get more in depth with it. You just tell yourself that, and you keep going, and it works.
Yeah.
So what was the next part? Did we have any more of a void?
Let me see. No, you just make sure that you write in the question for which you need the answer, You have your marker there. You can search it later. You let it go. The next thing you do is you pinpoint. This is where you are going to actually get stuck if you don't, if it's a critical plot related issue in which you have to know this piece of information before you can continue, or you will break your book. An example that I can think of for this is if you are writing some sort of forensic crime novel, and you have to know a piece of how information is gathered, because that information gathering technique is going to then spin off both your misdirection, where you're going to have people think one thing happens, and your actual direction, where you are going to hide a part of the plot that you are going to bounce out later. And it all hinges on this technique. In that case, you have a pinpoint, small bit of information that you absolutely must have there. So then you ask the small, focused question that deals with this specific story situation, and that can be located quickly and added quickly. And this is stuff like a tech vocabulary word or a single historical detail. If you are going back and you need to know what they called whorehouses in Rome, and you need the word for it. And I'm not sure why you would absolutely have to have that and couldn't just TC that, but let's assume that you have a really good reason for having to have that word.
Or maybe just having to know how something works.
Right.
Something very simple, but if you do it wrong, it could ruin your plot. So you
Right.
have to make sure it works.
Right. So you will know when you have something like this and you are planning a core part of the story plot on this detail, you will know that this is something that you have to pinpoint. So then you ask that question, you go find the answer for just that question. You do not get sucked into all the other cool stuff related to it, and especially in historical novels or in anything with world building. This is hard to do, because when you go back and you start digging through history, or you start digging through your world building, it is so fun to get in there and find more. Don't do that.
Yeah, because everything you read, you're like, oh man, okay, I gotta find a way to include this. Oh man, I gotta find a way to include that too.
Yes, and I've got to find a way to include that is code for I'm not writing right now. Mm-hmm. So, okay, then the third thing you do is you time shift. And this is where you have more than one question, where you actually genuinely need to know a part of Roman culture. And it's going to make a difference in how you write your characters. So you make what you're researching your non-writing hobby. I could, at this point, man, if I could just figure out how to write something compelling about knitters, I have the writing hobby from hell, man, because I have books and books and books on it, and yarn and yarn and yarn, and all different kinds of needles, and I have the tech specs, and if I could just figure out how to make this shit interesting in fiction, I would be home, baby, because I have done the research. So, but this is, if you have something that you really want to write about, and especially if you are thinking about writing big, if you are thinking about writing multiple stories in this world, like you and your research for Wanda Lucia, where you are researching paranormal.
No, Glass House.
Glass House, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you are researching all of this really cool paranormal stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, I could do that for a living.
Yeah.
If somebody just paid me like 50 cents an hour, I'd be like, done. I could research paranormal stuff, cryptids, my entire life.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Put that at $20 an hour, and then you don't have to write.
Yeah, no, that's true. But then that's like that.
But
would
then you
suck
wouldn't be
because I wanna
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and writing again, coolest job ever. So anyway, that's when you need big research, and when you need big research for a big product, you have, or for a big series of stories or novels or whatever, then that becomes your off time activity. It does not touch your writing. You're still sitting there with your butt in the chair for the number of hours per day that you have, minutes or hours per day that you have allotted. And honestly, starting with just 10 minutes a day, you can write a book in just 10 minutes a day. I am writing, I'm kind of demoing this with the demo novel that I'm doing for How to Write a Novel, in which I only have 1 day per week that I have the time to do this because of all of the other stuff that I'm doing. But in that 1 day per week, I write for 1 hour. I set the 10-minute timer 6 times, unless I get my words beforehand, which I did last time, where I got all of my words in 5 10-minute sprints.
And what is your word goal so people understand?
My word goal for that is 1,515 words or slightly more. And I stop as soon as I hit that word goal or slightly more, because slightly more means you do have to finish a sentence or a thought. Because if you stop and you pick it up a week later, you're not going to remember how you wanted to end that thing. So
yeah, usually I try to get the scenes done myself. Yeah.
Well, there are times when you can run way long in a scene, and then you start feeling like you have to do that. That becomes your new word count, and people start writing to failure on that, and that's bad. So I am demoing the process that gives people continuing success, which is just, a word count that you stick to. Stop when you get to the end of your word count or the end of the thought at the end of that word count, and don't start giving yourself this ever increasing number of words that you feel obligated to hit, because that's
just because you can hit it a couple of times doesn't mean that it should be a should.
Right. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So that's time shifting, and then there is feast then fast, which this is you had this idea for a story, and it's a big idea, and it's a big story, and you can't really start writing it until you have dug in. Okay, so that's all right. If you can compartmentalize your research into this massive research orgy, which, that sounds fun, where all you have to do for a week or a couple of weeks or a month or whatever is every spare second you got, you are going to throw yourself into history and the science of the history and the technology of the history, and how people farmed and how people made tools in the Iron Age, and how they found iron and what they mined, and all of these zillions of things. What did they do before they had electricity? How did they wash clothes? How did they make clothes? How do you make fibers and weave them and knit them together? And how do you make the tools for that? And 7 zillion things. And you can just have all the fun you want. Give yourself a date. Say, okay, I am going to give myself this amount of time to research this book. And it can be a week or a month, in which I am going to just go in whole hog, and I am going to read everything, and I am going to write down all of these notes, and I am going to photocopy shit, and I am going to do all of this stuff so that I have this massive resource. Okay? And when you have done that, you walk away and you only use in the story what sticks in your memory. You don't use any of the notes, because you have eaten the elephant, okay? At this point, you have really gone in hard. And you have eaten that elephant. You have the skin and the tusks and the toenails and everything. It's in there. The berries that the readers get are the parts that are important enough to your research that they stick in your memory. You let the rest go. If you know that there is a little piece in there that you have in your research, you go back and you TC that sucker. You just put in your little marker, your square bracket, TC hyphen, write your question in there. What is the word for this thing that I researched? And then you go back later when you have written the whole first draft and you add in those important details. But this
That's
is
cool because you can still use your notes.
right.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about because my memory is shit, so I wouldn't remember a lot of this stuff. But I could still put in a placeholder, like cover, like whatever the placeholder is, and then write in research notes, so I know that I already covered it and where to look, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, when you have gone swimming in Roman history, when you have taken a bath in there and you have been all the way immersed and you have lived in it for from a couple of weeks to a month or so, and you have written out your notes and you have written out these details, there is a lot of this that is going to stick in your memory. Probably,
Yeah, the writing helps.
right. Probably without the terminology. The terminology is the thing that is most likely to just float off the top of your head and be gone. But you know that terminology exists now. So knowing that it exists, knowing that there is a specific word for the thing that you want to put into the story, you can then TC that. You can then, that's just something that is to come. And you
Or like you were talking about with the making of fabrics or making of weaving or something, if you forgot the exact order of something like that, but then that's something you could look up again. But yeah, I found you're absolutely right that when you write stuff down, when you're taking notes and stuff, it sticks in your head a lot better.
Right. But then the key part of that is that the stuff that really matters is the stuff that's going to show up in your story. So the process you need to stay focused on here, if you are going in hard, if you are going in deep and you are going to make this a thing, is to trust your muse to keep the most important things in mind and put those into the story. These are the berries you feed your readers. And you don't have to use everything you researched. You just trust that your right brain will know which parts of it will fit into the story and fluidly create this world that your reader can live in and that you can live in. And learning to trust your muse to do that is a little tough. But as you work together longer, as you relax and slide into this thing that you are doing, where it is this collaboration between your right brain and your left brain, and each one gets its turn, then it becomes far easier to know that your right brain is going to give you the stuff that you need that will make the story great. And then you can just let go of all of the little details your left brain says needs to be in there. And in revision, if you want to put them in, you can do that, which is the final thing. It is, no matter what you do, you can fix it in revision. It's no matter how badly you screw something up, no matter how much you leave out, no matter how much you forget, at the point where you have finished the whole first draft and you go in to revise, you have this opportunity to look at what you've created, figure out what's wonderful about it, save all of that, and then just fix the parts that broke.
Yeah, I love that as in writing. And I swear I will always love that because coming from the filmmaker mindset, somebody who wanted to be a filmmaker because I think I was highly influenced by Mark and my baby brother, my little brother. I have a baby brother and I have a little brother, and Mark's my little brother. And I was just, I always wanted to be an actress. That was there. But then Mark really got into film, and I started getting into film too because it was like he's pointing out all these amazing things. It's like, yeah, hell yeah. So I really got into film. I researched it. I went to film school. I mean, I was really into it. But there's this thing, and I know I mentioned this earlier, it's called fix it and post. You don't want to have that attitude. You don't want to have that mindset because there are things that you film and you realize like, oh, there's a problem. Well, you know what? We don't have the time or the money to refilm this. Well, yes, you do, because you can't fix it in post.
Right.
It's the thing is like it makes it very obvious that you fix it in post. But with writing, it's always fix it in post.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, because all of your actors work for free.
Yeah.
You
yeah. And my
never
budget is limitless.
Yes.
And everything. It's a limitless budget and actors that can't tell you no. They have to come back.
Yes, they have no agent. They have no contract. They you own their asses. So you bring them back in and you make them work for free.
Yep. Even the ones that died. They're like, I died already. Too bad. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah. Well,
get back in
hey,
here.
your zombie is
Yep.
back to work, bitch.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you don't have to worry about actor drama or conflicts with other people. It's just fix it in post, and it's I just oh god, I love that.
Yes, this is the ideal job for control freaks.
Yes.
Yes, but only in revision. This is the ideal job for control freaks only in revision, because in first draft, your control freak is sitting on the sidelines with tape over her mouth.
Yeah, so let's go over just a couple of ways that people can get research done, even in limited time. I'm thinking podcasts are great. I'm thinking audiobooks are great.
Yeah.
You've got, Kindle. You can carry
Oh,
all of your
God.
research books on.
Right.
And I'm a paper book person. I really, really love physical books. I really do. But you know what? Kindle is convenient as hell. I carry about 100 books with me anywhere I go, and that's nothing. That's
Yeah.
a drop in what a Kindle can hold.
I think I have over 1,000 on mine.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
So that's another way. The internet, but you have to really be careful with your sources on the internet. Double check. Get several sources about things. I and make sure that it's accurate. Now, I want you to cover Spies.
Oh, Spies. All right. And this is a research thing that I did back in How to Think Sideways, which is my How to Build a Writing Career course, which people should probably take last, because you have to be regularly
Even though it was
writing.
the first thing.
Even though it was the first thing, because that was the question people wanted the answer to. So that's the question I answered. Anyway, okay, Spies. There are people who know what you don't know, and who know it really well. And people, for reasons I have never been able to completely figure out, are kind of enthralled by talking to writers. If you go to somebody and you say, look, I need this information about what would you do in this situation. I called up a lawyer once and said, hey, I'm a writer. This is for a contracted book. I am on a deadline. I will not take a lot of your time, but if I can ask you this one question, what would you do as a lawyer if you were in this particular situation? I spelled out the situation for him. He thought about it for a minute on the phone talking to me, and said, okay, well, here is what I would do in that situation. And he walked me through it. And he said, and this has never happened to me, but that's a really cool situation. And I credited him in the novel with, an acknowledgement, because, and
Which book was that?
damned if I know. I cannot remember now. I was doing a bunch of contract work at the time. And it was one of my paranormal suspense novels, but I don't remember which one.
Okay.
And it was, and I called up a detective, a guy who was, and that one was for the first book, I'm pretty sure, where
That's I See You, isn't it?
Oh.
The stripper one.
Yeah, that was, you're right. That one was for the stripper book. And I asked a bunch of strippers, what's the job like? And they told me, and I used their stripper names. They did not want their real names in the book, but I credited them with their stripper names. And because people like to talk about their jobs. And if you promise that you will not, out them if they need for their job not to be known, remarkable numbers of people will just tell you, well, this is what I do, and this is how I do it. And, you can't credit me as a source for this other than, you can use this name or whatever. And I find that wonderful.
It's like we're not people at that point. We are this person on a pedestal in a way. It's so weird that people see this. It's like any other person, hey, lawyer, what would you do if this? It's like, I don't know, pay me $150 an hour and I'll tell you.
Right.
It's just, you're a nosy person if you go up to a stripper and say, hey, what's your job like?
Yeah.
or but if you say I'm a writer working on a novel,
Yeah.
people immediately open up.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And it is crazy and beautiful, and it is one of the things I love most about people
Yeah.
is that if you have a legitimate reason for needing to know, they'll say, "Oh, okay, well here is what I do. This is the worst part of the job." And there were a lot of worst parts of the job when I was talking to the various strippers where they were saying, well, this is this part really sucks. And I put that into the book, the parts that really suck, and this part's not too bad. And there are these things that kind of break you as a person for a while when you have to deal with them. And that was knowing that made them real to me as people and allowed me to make my characters more real.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the thing with using spies, and that's what these are. These guys are your spies inside worlds you can't reach. Is you have to have one specific question. You have to have a massive respect for their time. You cannot get them on the phone and then ask them 75 other things. You have to go in knowing exactly the piece of information you need, or the two or three pieces of information, never more than three. And you have to have a set time limit that you promise to stick to, that I will only use this amount of your time, and then you have to stick to that religiously, even if the person is giving you this wonderful stuff and you are thinking, man, I could ask 5 more questions. Don't. Say the answer to that is, if I have any further questions, thank you for your time, and this is amazing, and if I have any further questions, is there a way that I could contact you again? And
yeah, I know that policeman that you worked with was amazing.
Oh my God, he was awesome. He was awesome. There was a detective out in, I think, California, who was just walking me through all of this cool process with the police part of doing an investigation where these people, and this was the first book, were doing an investigation on serial killings no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was still ICU. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was still the serial killings of the strippers. And he was walking me through, well, this is how we would do this, and this is what you can't do, and this is where everybody gets it wrong. And he read the book when I finished it, and the first draft, and he said, you haven't done any worse than most of the TV shows that I see. And I went, oh God, no, not that. No, I said, no, tell me everything I got wrong. Don't be kind. Don't be generous. Be mean. Tell me
People
everything.
Don't understand we need that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's no, oh, hey, well, you were pretty close. No, no, let me know what I did wrong so I can fix it. And there were a couple of things that I put in there that I left intentionally wrong, because these were techniques the police were using at the time that I did not want to out. So there were a couple of things in there. He said, okay, well, this is what we would do, but this is current stuff. I said, okay, I won't use that. Bless his heart, and I didn't. Because
that's amazing. That's a really good spy.
Yeah, he was amazing, and that's the other thing. Keep your word. If you tell somebody, who is giving you some piece of personal information, I'm not going to use that, then that becomes your religion. You do not use it, no matter how awesome, how juicy, how spectacular it is. You write around that, because the only way that you can keep your integrity as a writer, and the only way that you can keep this field open for other writers following behind you, is to be honest with the people who help you, so that they don't get screwed by what they tell you. Yeah. And that was a big damn deal for me, and I got a great book out of it. I really did. I am still really tickled by the way that all came together, and and being able to work with the caliber of people who are willing to help you just because you're a writer is this gift. It is this astonishing gift.
There's so much solitude when it comes to writing, so much isolation that it's nice that part of being a writer makes it so much easier for people to open up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is this unexpected benefit that if you need to know something strange, you can figure out who would know that. You can find a way to contact that person, or just a group of people. Sometimes you have to ask more than one, because a lot of people will look at the email from somebody they don't know and go, "No, I'm not. No, thank you." But there is somebody out there who knows what you want to know, who will be happy to help you figure out how it works in your book, and you thank them in the way that they tell you is okay to thank them. In the acknowledgments, either by not using their name or by using their name, if that's okay, if they're in something that they're not, they don't need to keep private or whatever. But this is one of those things where people are just fucking awesome. They really are.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say as far as like ways to research? Because I think we covered a lot of it. Library.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Yeah, library remains a source.
You can, if you know somebody, you can maybe ask, like, if you know a cop, you can sign up for ride along, or you can ask your friend if you can go to work with them one day if they do certain things.
Yeah.
Those certain, and your friends. Your friends are an amazing source of information if you just talk to them, because a lot of your friends and family have gone through things that you haven't, and might be really, really good spies themselves.
Yes, you already know a lot of people who know a lot of things you don't know. And the thing about things you don't know is that there are a lot of things you think you know from watching TV or reading novels, or that just ain't so. And assuming that you know things you don't know is the way that a lot of bad television gets made.
And bad books.
Oh my God. And the thing that drives me absolutely crazy is I'll be watching TV shows where the actors or actresses put the nasal cannulas on the patients wrong, where they have the thing going upside down into the nose and draped along the back. And they fit nasal cannulas for O2 when you have to give somebody O2. They fit over the ears like a pair of glasses with the little slider in the front. Or they will have the IV taped in backwards. And you're going, no, you fucking moron.
Or they just stab somebody in the arm with something and they don't look for a vein or anything like that.
Right. They don't. Yes, they don't use a tourniquet. They don't wipe the spot with alcohol. They're not wearing gloves. We
watched one where they put the tourniquet on after they put the needle in.
Oh, that's useful. That's useful. Let's blow that vein and give them a great big swollen hand. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, but Tony's exactly like you with the firefighter, anything medical related that he understands and knows about, because he's an EMT. He just all over the place, especially the firefighter thing though, because most shows try to get the medical stuff right. Most shows don't even bother with the firefighter stuff. They just have firefighters in suits. Like, we watched a movie that they were getting a cat out of the tree and they were in full gear.
Oh God.
Yeah. Tony was like, why? He was just so angry. And
yes. So, yeah, exactly. Oh my God. So it is the things you think you know. And for actors and actresses and TV people and everybody, they think, oh, hey, this is a thing. We just tape this on here and it's going to be okay. And nobody's going to, this is what we think we know. And you don't know what you don't know. And you cannot know what you don't know. So if you are moving into an area that is not your area of expertise, assume from the get-go that you need to talk to somebody so you don't do something that is just breathtakingly stupid. And this is where people are wonderful, because they will tell you, they'll say, oh my God, if you talk to a nurse who watches stuff on TV, she'll say, okay, well, ER gets it pretty right. They're pretty good. But all of these soap operas and stuff, I can't watch them because, really? Really? You couldn't check that out? You couldn't ask a nurse how to do that right? Really? And every job is like that. Every job has things that people think they know that they don't know.
Yeah, even waitressing, even just any job at all. Any job at all that you haven't done, you can find a person who does the job and make it more interesting and more detailed and more accurate. And it won't be boring to your reader as long as you share the berries and not the elephant.
Right. And so, the shortcut to that even is if you can find somebody after you have written the first draft and you have all your little to-come areas in there, all your little TCs, and you have the things that you didn't know that you don't know written in, and you think you're pretty solid, find somebody who does the job and say, look, I really need help with this. I need an expert's eye on this manuscript. Can you please read through this and tell me what I got wrong? And don't be nice. Do not be nice to me. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me why it's wrong, and tell me what I need to do to fix it. And
and sometimes all you have to do is tell them. All those times when the movies get this shit wrong and it pisses you off? This is your chance to fix it, so be honest with me.
Right. Because I guarantee you, anybody who has ever done a job anywhere has stuff they have seen on TV where they're going, really? Really? You idiots. And that's your in. That is your in, I want to not be that idiot. So please help me.
So is there anything else before the takeaway?
No, I really think that pretty much has it. Write the book first, make your mistakes, find somebody who can tell you what you got wrong, because you can revise and revise and revise, but until you've talked to that person, the stuff that you don't know is going to stay in the book.
And it is kind of a lot cooler to be able to go to somebody afterwards, after you've written the book, because you will better know what you need to know than beforehand, which you're just going to sit there and say, I need to know everything. So
exactly.
Yeah. So was that the takeaway?
No, the takeaway on this is that you have 3 questions to answer to ask yourself. And the first question, this is what do I need to research? The first question is, what question are you answering? And if possible, you make this as tight as it possibly can be. If you can make it I need a word, you can just TC that bad boy. Or I need this process which is going to affect the plot. Well, that's time shifting. If I need to know everything because I know nothing, okay, that's feast then fast, where you go in and you write everything, or you research everything, and then you only write from memory in the first draft, and then you go back afterwards and revise. What question are you answering? Okay, the second question you ask yourself is, why does the answer to this question matter to my story? And if it's just because I think it would be cool to know, you don't waste time on research. If it's because I don't know what I don't know, that's valid to a point. If there is a living expert who you can enlist in getting you past that point, you just write what you think you know, and then you hand it to somebody who knows, and then you take your lumps. And the third question you ask is, why does the answer matter to your reader? And this is the one on which you can kill a lot of research, because if you are writing about the Roman Empire and you are doing it for history buffs, then you are committed to deep research. If you are writing about a Romanesque empire, kind of your vision of what the Roman Empire might have been, but you are writing it for people who are just reading for fun, and who you can, if you can make the world your version of the Roman Empire and change the words a little bit and change the culture a little bit so that you own it, then you don't have to do any research at all. You can just make a Roman Empire, and you can put this in even in the title of the book, A Roman Empire That Never Was. And bam, you're clear. You are alternative history, or you are whatever you want to do, where you can change stuff at will. So who's your reader? If the reader is somebody who knows what you're writing, you have to know it, and you have to know it and get it right. If the reader is someone who is reading for fun and who just wants your story, you can do way, 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 way less research. And that's really important. Yeah, that is very freeing to know that if you own the world and you invented the world, then whatever you decide is research you might have to do can always come later, can always just be TC'd in first draft. And you can sit down and get your butt in the chair every day and get your words done and not be tied up with having to stop and go look things up.
But I do like the idea of doing that feast thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think it's a cool idea to just give yourself a month of research or 2 weeks of research. And just a quick note, if you are doing research on stuff and it's horrible and it's boring to you, maybe you're not writing about the right subject.
Exactly. And for Feast or Fast, that was the process that I used with every book that I wrote, where I would, in my Tolkien days, I would draw the map. I would then build the characters and the cultures. Well, I would build the cultures first. I didn't even get to characters until way late. I would build the cultures. I would build the languages. I would build places on the map that characters could go. I would build a history of interesting things that had happened in different parts of my world map. And then I would build the characters. And it took me generally about a month to just go in and orgy that damn thing, where all I did for hours and hours every day was sit at the kitchen table and draw maps and draw alien creatures and draw and build languages and build syntaxes and do reductionary alphabetization, where I would develop, so make sure that the languages would be speakable. This is one of the things from my language clinic. It's like the first step. And I would do all of this stuff. And then I would start writing the story. And once I started writing the story, I almost never referred to any of the research that I did.
But it was all in your head in a way,
right,
in a shape or form.
Right, exactly. It was, I had done the research, I had eaten the elephant, and the stuff that stuck in my head was the stuff that was important, and it showed up in the story as berries. And people did not get buried in this massive
Oh my God.
lump of expository stuff that I did first for myself.
That was a Bob's Burger pun right there. Good grief.
What was?
You didn't even make a pun. You were talking about berries, and then you said so people didn't get buried.
Oh.
So because of your,
Okay.
Emphasis on the word buried. I
Yes.
thought you were punning.
Oh, damn. No, that was purely by accident.
So I believe that's it for the topic of how not to get eaten by research, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
Thank you guys for the question.
Yeah. Thank you, many, many, many multiple people for asking us to do an episode on research, because this one was fun for Mom.
Yes.
And it's exciting for me too, because it makes me want to get back to Glass House, which we will be doing soon.
Yay.
Sometime next year.
Yay.
So the votes are still in. So if you want to vote on what book I revise, we don't, I talked to a friend of mine and he's like, I don't know how you're going to share all of that on the podcast. Well, the majority of it is going to be shared in Holly's How to Revise Your Novel,
right,
because she had an original person who dropped out that had a book for her. But so my book is going to be the guinea pig and Suffer. But I do want to be able to do a mini episode every month or so, just kind of covering what I'm doing and how I'm doing it without going on too long or anything like
Right.
that. Just so we can update everybody and they can kind of follow the process. So yeah, anyway, if you want to vote on that, by the way, and you have an account at hollyswritingclasses.com, go on our podcast. It's one of the podcasts. If you vote for the romance novel, thank you. I didn't originally have any preference, but the absolute slam dunk that Glass House is getting right now is just murdering my poor little romance novel. And this is why I did not want to mention genres, because I knew for a fact that somebody was going to say I would prefer not to read another romance novel or a romance novel. A lot of people don't like them.
But I think truth in advertising is important too.
Yeah, but at the same time, people are going to say, well, it's just romance. Even writers say that. And it sucks because romance is as difficult a genre as any other.
Yes, it is.
Just, I mean, if you make it, a good story. But yeah, so if you want to vote on that, go vote on that. Vote for whichever one you want. I have this mental disease of rooting for the underdogs at all times. Probably why I am still a Buffalo Bills fan. But okay, so we'll get to just to say thank you very much for the question. Thank you very much for listening. If we didn't cover everything in this topic, please feel free to let us know. You can follow us on the socials at AIARWIP. You can also search the hashtag Alone with Invisible People or Alone in a Room with Invisible People. That is on Twitter and Instagram. We are on Facebook at Alone in a Room with Invisible People. The socials are going to start getting a little bit more activity. I'm sorry that they have been slacked on a little bit, just being busy, but that's not an excuse. I want to definitely start getting some more quotes up and everything. If you want to email us, we are at it's show@alonewithinvisiblepeople.com. And we have a website that is alonewithinvisiblepeople.com, or you can type in airwhip, that is AIARWIP.com. If you want to leave any messages, like for instance, if you have a question about this podcast that we did, you can leave it on the website. You just find the appropriate episode topic, and we have a search engine in there that if you can't find it because it's an old one, just type in the episode name and the search engine will pull that up. If you want to get more in depth, or it's a private question or a private email to either one of us, again, show at alonewithinvisiblepeople.com, or you can create a free account on the forums at hollyswritingclasses.com. Again, free account, and you can get right into the private forum for Alone in a Room with Invisible People, and lots of people talking there. We have great members. They're very inviting. We have a lot of good discussions and stuff that...
Yeah, I was surprised at the number of discussions about shows that are going on in the forum.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more people we get, the more that will just grow. We have 2 ways that you can help the podcast if you so desire. If you want to make a one-time, donation, we have on the website, alonewithinvisiblepeople.com, on the right-hand side of the, kind of right on the top, is a donation bar that just says, just for supporting us, is 3 different tiers. It's $5, $10, and $15. It's just basically a buy me a coffee, but we just couldn't get a buy me a coffee because I only use PayPal right now. And if you want to support us on a monthly basis, we have a Patreon that is Alone with Invisible People, or Alone in a Room with Invisible People on Patreon. And we have 3 tiers, $1, $5, and $9. And currently there are no rewards, but we're looking at some rewards for 2019. We do have to have a certain amount of money in there. I put a goal on there that with that goal in mind, that goal amount, we're looking at maybe being able to supply some transcripts and some other rewards. But at the moment, right now, there are none. And the last thing is we still are doing the books for reviews. So Holly has the book called Squick Studies. It's sent in Settled Space. I have the book called Good Bones. It is a paranormal book, short story. Both are short stories. And if you leave us a review, on iTunes and let us know about it, you just let us know by emailing us. We will verify you left the review and email you the books. Alrighty, so I believe that is it. I'm just going to say a quick goodbye and have a good day, Holly.
And we are looking forward to talking to you again next week.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
You want to write You love words, you love fiction, but you don't know where to start, or how to middle, or where to finish. I do. I'm Holly Lisle, and I've been doing this professionally since 1991. And I know how I did what I did to go pro, and I'll be happy to show you what I've learned. Start with my free 3-week flash fiction class at hollyswritingclasses.com.